I never thought the people who raised me could break me so completely, until the one day I needed them most. My name is Elena, and for 28 years I believed I had the kind of parents every daughter dreams of, devoted, protective, always there. Or so I told myself. I pushed through every quiet disappointment, every cold shoulder, convincing myself their love was just different. I got married young, had my beautiful baby girl, Sophia, and tried to build the warm home I never quite felt growing up. Then came the day everything shattered. I woke up in excruciating pain. The doctor said my appendix had ruptured. Emergency surgery, no choice. I was terrified, not for myself, but for my 6-month-old daughter. I needed someone to watch her while I was under the knife. My husband was overseas for work, unreachable. So with tears in my eyes and fear in my voice, I called the only people I thought I could count on. Mom, Dad, I need you. Just for 24 hours, please. The silence on the line was deafening. Then my mother's voice, cold and clipped. Elena, we're not a daycare service. We have plans. You should have thought about this before having a child so young. My father chimed in. We raised you. Now it's your responsibility. Figure it out. I begged. I cried. I reminded them how I'd dropped everything for them over the years. Holidays, illnesses, their endless needs. But they hung up. Just like that. I sat on the edge of my bed, holding my sleeping baby, feeling more alone than I ever had in my life. A neighbor finally agreed to help at the last minute. I kissed Sophia's tiny forehead, whispered that Mommy would be back soon, and let them wheel me into surgery with a broken heart. I came out of anesthesia groggy, in pain, desperate to see my baby. The nurses said I was stable but needed rest. That night blurred into the next day. 48 hours. That's how long it took for my entire world to flip upside down. I was still hooked up to monitors when the hospital room door opened. A tall man in his late 50s stepped in, silver at his temples, kind but weary eyes holding a small bouquet of flowers. I didn't recognize him. Elena? His voice cracked. I'm so sorry it took me this long. He introduced himself as Marcus, and then he said the words that stopped my heart. I'm your real father. I laughed at first, nervous, disbelieving laughter, thinking the painkillers were playing tricks. But he pulled out documents, old photos, a DNA test he'd taken years ago when he first began searching. Every piece fit like a knife twisting deeper. I wasn't their biological daughter. I had been adopted under circumstances they never told me about. My birth mother passed away when I was a toddler. Marcus had been searching for me ever since. Blocked at every turn by the couple I called Mom and Dad. They had used connections to keep the adoption records sealed. They wanted a child to control, to mold, to fill the emptiness in their own lives. But they never truly loved me. I was a possession. The refusal to watch Sophia wasn't just cruelty in the moment. It was the final proof. They saw my child, my bloodline, as a threat to their story. They wanted me isolated, dependent, forever grateful for the life they gave me. When I needed them, they chose to punish me instead. I lay there in that hospital bed, replaying every childhood memory through this new, devastating lens. The times they criticized my looks, you don't take after us. Thank goodness. The way they discouraged me from asking about my past. The emotional distance that always left me wondering what I did wrong. It wasn't me. It was never me. Tears streamed down my face as Marcus gently held my hand. He told me how he had received a tip from a former hospital worker and rushed here the moment he confirmed I was the one. He had been looking for 26 years. While I cried for the father I never knew I had, anger began to bloom in my chest, slow, hot, and unbreakable. I called my so-called parents the next morning. My voice was steady, even though my body still ached. I know the truth, I said. Don't come to the hospital. Don't call. Stay away from me and my daughter. My mother's gasp was sharp. Elena, whatever that man told you is lies. We are your parents. We raised you. You raised me like a project, I whispered. And when I needed you to love my child, you turned your backs. I'm done. The days that followed were a storm of emotions. I held Sophia tighter than ever, watching her innocent face and vowing she would never feel the emptiness I carried. Marcus stayed by my side, quiet, respectful, helping with everything. For the first time, I felt what real parental love could look like. It was gentle. It was present. It asked for nothing in return. But the betrayal cut so deep I could barely breathe some nights. How many birthdays had they celebrated while knowing the truth? How many times had they looked at me and seen not a daughter, but a secret they controlled? I didn't scream or make a scene. I did something far more powerful. With Marcus's help and a good lawyer, I opened the sealed records. I discovered my so-called parents had manipulated the adoption process, using money and influence to erase Marcus from my life. They had even received support payments meant for me that they never disclosed. It was all about control and appearances. I exposed everything, not with rage-filled posts online, but with quiet, undeniable truth. I wrote a letter to the family, friends, and relatives who had watched me grow up, sharing the documents and the DNA results. I changed my last name back to my biological one. I cut every tie. When they showed up at my door weeks later, faces pale, voices pleading, I stood tall with Sophia in my arms and Marcus beside me. "You refused to watch your granddaughter when she needed you," I said calmly. "Now you have no granddaughter. You have nothing from me anymore." My mother cried. My father looked broken, but their tears didn't move me. They had taught me the cost of conditional love. Now they were living it. Marcus and I grew close. He's the grandfather Sophia deserves, warm, patient, full of stories about the mother I never got to know. We're building something real, something honest. Looking back, that hospital bed was the beginning of my freedom. The betrayal that nearly destroyed me became the door to the life I was always meant to live. If there's one thing I want you to take from my story, it's this: blood isn't always what makes a family, but love is. And sometimes the greatest revenge isn't loud or cruel. It's choosing to heal, to protect what's yours, and to walk away from people who only ever saw you as something to own. Never let anyone make you beg for the love you deserve. When the mask finally falls, stand up. Hold your child closer, and begin again. Thank you for listening to my story. If you've ever been betrayed by the people who were supposed to love you most, you're not alone. Drop a comment below. Let's heal together.